Like now, when I ride through the community and I see people protesting and that I have seen, you see everybody on the corners with their signs, young blacks, young whites, young people, period. Whereas when I was growing up, that wasn't necessarily the case.
Hey everyone, I'm Scott Shigioka, your host for Bridging Divides, and today we're going to be talking to Mark and Ava. They're two people who come from different generations. Ava is in high school still, and Mark is retired. And they're not related. They actually met through an organization called Sages and Seekers. And what they do is they bring people together across the generations through the art of conversation. And while these typically happened in person, now that we're living in this COVID-19 pandemic, these conversations are happening strictly online. And I wanted to show through this relationship and through this conversation that it's totally possible to build connections across differences, even through technology. Mark and Ava not only found common ground, but they also were able to push each other in thinking differently about their own perspectives. I hope you enjoy this conversation.
I met Mark through this online program that kind of is all about bridging intergenerational gaps.
Basically, you just talk, you get to know each other, and the thing that's really magical about it is you find out that even with age difference and gender and race and ethnicity, we all have a whole lot in common, more in common than we don't.
Ava, I know that you consider yourself a part of the Black Lives Matter movement, and then Mark, you've been a part of this movement since the Civil Rights Movement, if I'm not mistaken. The groups that were out when you were younger maybe look different than what you're seeing today. It sounds like today you're seeing a much more broad coalition of people. Is that right?
I mean, when you think about it, you look at the crowd and you look at the people that are at these protests, and there's no one specific population that's there. It's represented by men, women, black, white, Latino, Asian, gay and lesbian. It's just everyone's there. And the ages vary. You have young teenagers, and then you have those in their 20s and their 30s, and even older. So that, to me, I think it's what makes it encouraging. What scares me about it is what happens when the momentum drops off, when people have to go back to work, when people have to make a living.
Ava, what's coming up for you as you get to hear these kinds of stories from Mark, all the time when you're getting connected through Sages and Seekers? What are you learning, or what's your experience of being able to have this connective opportunity with Mark?
So basically, when Mark actually brought up the topic of Black Lives Matter and all the protests, till then I'd just been avoiding kind of political topics with any sages, just out of the fear of like it's going to be conflicting, and I just am not I'm not a person who likes conflict in any way. And so he asked me what I thought of it and what I thought of what had been going on, and so I just answered him honestly. I supported it and the different thoughts I had on the different aspects of it, and he just sat there and listened very quietly, and then he kind of gave me all my words back and explained his experience with it and his past, and it was just so informational and just kind of it's a conversation I've never had with anyone who's kind of out of my age group before, so that was definitely a conversation that my brain was like, wow, and just little light bulbs and fireworks everywhere, so yeah.
And I'm sure it's two-directional too, right? Like you, in your own right, Ava, are an incredible activist, and you create, you're funneling, $10,000 through, your fundraising efforts to organizations like the Trevor Project. Can you talk about like what you've been able to do as well?
I do a bake sale every year called the Rainbow Bake Sale, and all the proceeds go to Trevor Project. I've done ones for Planned Parenthood, Mary's List for Immigration, Moms Men Gun Sense.
And that's beautiful. I think the amount of work and issues that you're connected to is such a testament to you and how engaged and involved you are. And I'm wondering for you, Mark, what are you learning, or what's coming up for you as you hear about all of the things that Ava's doing for her community, for the people that she loves? What are you gaining from this experience of connecting across the generations in this way?
That's a really good question. The number one thing I've gained in this relationship with Ava is it helps me not become cynical about young people today. Okay? I mean, if you listen to a lot of older people, if you listen to the media, the way they depict young people, it's just like similar. Ava said very clearly that she was a little apprehensive because she didn't know if she's going to come in and have some older person lecture to her and preach to her and have a whole different opinion, and finding and getting to talking to someone that didn't have that helped her become more open with me. And I think that was helpful for me as well. But she's giving me a sense of hope and a sense of, that's all I can say. It's hope. We're going to be okay.
One of the things I heard you say, Mark, is that Sages and Seekers saved your life in a way. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Well, that's probably a little dramatic, but yeah, I did say that. Well, you've got these different parts of your life that you go through, and you don't always plan for them. I don't think I emotionally planned for retirement. I just thought I was going to roll into it and it was going to be okay. So I had to remake myself in a sense. I had to remake a community for myself. I started going to Pilates classes. I started playing golf more often. I met some guys at the golf course. But it still wasn't enough. So I needed to do something. I needed to do something that made me feel like I still mattered. And Sage and Seekers helped me meet that goal and meet that. And it has helped me considerably.
Why is it important for us to connect across the generation like you two are?
If you think about the two groups of people in our society that people just sort of take for granted, are young people and seniors. And it's like when you become a senior, all of a sudden your power is gone, and on the other side of the coin, you got people not really giving the young people any credit because they can't even vote. They don't have any power. They don't have any money. All of those type of things. And I think so the reason these two generations work so well in talking with each other is because in some strange sort of way, they are being oppressed in a very similar way.
Just the idea of separating these two generations is like you're not useful right now because you're out of date, or you haven't yet hit your date of, I don't know, like when cheese ages and it's ready to be eaten, that kind of thing, I guess.
At least once a week I'll hear, okay, boomer used in a negative way towards, older folks. And at least once a week I also hear, an entitlement towards young people thrown at them or us. And so I'm just curious, what do you hope for the future of our country regarding this generational divide?
Take it away, Mark.
You go first, please.
Okay, that's, I guess, kind of a big question, but my hope is that Mark and I stay besties, As I prep for college, I'd love for him to read over my PI, personal insight questions, or my little essays. My bigger hope it was the world, right? And just us as people. Everyone I know who's kind of an activist of some sort has such a drive, and I know they're going to do great things, and I just hope that the world is kind of ready to let them do it, right? Ready to not stand to the side, but work together. And I think this is one of those points, kind of like how Mark said, that different generations are bridging together to kind of do BLM or various other movements. And that's what I'd like, that's my hope, that it becomes less about what generation you are or where you're from or what you look like, and more about we have a common goal of helping this group or helping this idea.
That's beautiful. What about for you, Mark?
Well, first of all, I'm extremely flattered that she wants me to help her with all that stuff. And of course, I will do whatever you need. I think maybe I might even call you every now and then. As far as the world is concerned, Jesus, or our country, I just want people to get out and vote. Okay, whoever hears this, go vote. Go vote for your congressmen. Go vote for your senators. Go vote for your local people. Get the people in office that are going to represent you and take care of you. Okay, you know, when the civil rights movement fought to get the right to vote, and died and got bombed, and little girls getting killed in churches for the right to vote, the right to stand up and have their voice heard at the ballot box. We can't forget that. No one, black, white, rich or poor, we can't forget that. That's the most important thing that I want to see change for our country.